Good morning, everybody. If we would just come in well, I know you got to keep your 6 feet distance. But just come this way a little bit. And welcome to what I consider another great day in our area, in this city. And thank you all for coming out. Before I get started, I always want to recognize my colleagues on City Council that are here. Vice Mayor Joe Cobbs is here. And Joe, I'm not seeing anybody else. And all of you, I want to thank you for what we're doing, and I want to recognize Congressman Klein, who's here. Good to see you, sir. And all of those any other appointed or elected official. Roughly 2 years ago, ground was broken for an innovative partnership, placing the communication centers for Roanoke, E911, and Virginia 811 under one roof. The partnership is beneficial to both parties because certain costs could be shared. Today we celebrate the completion of this project. This 31,000 square foot facility with a cost of $16 million provides a state-of-the-art facility for the city personnel that handles the more than 250,000 emergency calls annually and the more than 1 million calls handled by Miss Utilities addressing utility locations. In addition to Virginia 811 and our partners, I want to recognize the city's technology department and the 911 staff, led by Miss Sonia Roman. Sonia, hold your hand up there. Thank you for your leadership and commitment here. And everybody that's working that's a part of this, thank you for this day. I remember being here when we broke ground and a number of years ago. So this is a special day and a great day. They've been involved in this project really from day one and have provided input and support to ensure the center meets the needs of our 911 team. I'm proud to say that Roanoke's 911 Center has been nationally accredited since 2008, receiving several additional accolades since that time. Our 911 Center employees provide timely, accurate, and courteous service to all citizens who contact them. They are keenly aware that swift action means the difference between life and death in certain emergency situations. For many years, our 911 Center has provided outstanding service working in limited conditions. The center has been housed in space located in the basement of the municipal building. This new facility will provide dispatchers with secured space as well as the equipment and technology needed to continue a high level of services to our citizens and responders. It will build on the center's solid reputation by setting the stage for continued growth in technology for the next centuries. In fact, we're confident the center will create a culture that promotes innovative thinking, information sharing, and an increased awareness and interaction with our community. So I invite you to join me in celebrating the beginning of a new era, not only in emergency communications, but in a special public-private partnership to provide those communications. This is outstanding, and it's good to be able to celebrate something for a while. So thank you very much, and we're delighted to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Mary Lee. I appreciate your comments certainly about the joint partnership. I do have to correct you on one thing. Virginia 811, we're not 1 million. We're going to be about 1.5 million incoming calls this year. A tremendous load. Of that, 70% is going to be over the web. Only 30% of that is voice. You look at everything is technology based. In addition to that, we have 8.5 million notices that we'll send out to utilities. All of that is electronic. We do 3 million follow-up calls to the excavators and gives them critical locate information. All of that is electronic. Everything we're doing, we're moving toward digital transformation and omni-channel communications. We're incorporating voice, chats, text, everything within what we're doing within our call switch. You know, it's a huge investment in technology. So prior to this building, we're actually just across the street. And you know, with all this investment in infrastructure, we felt it was a single point of failure. We wanted to have ownership of that property. And that's exactly what we did. And roughly 3 years ago, when we actually put a option on this building, we started getting into the communications, some discussions with Chris Morrow, the then city manager, about doing something joint. Debbie Hoffbauer, our IT manager, is the one that actually started those conversations. And the more we talked about it, it made sense. A lot of benefits, and I'll cover a few of those in a little bit. So with that, we started the process, and we had the ribbon cutting of the groundbreaking 2 years ago, and we started moving into that. And then we looked at all the benefits of what we're doing. It really became quite a bit. We realized very quickly that we weren't building office space. We weren't building the standard call center. We were building a data center. And everything in here we have is so robust. It's truly unique. We have everything's redundant. We have the data center was built to NFPA standards. We have dual ceilings. We have dual air conditioning units both in the data center and the building itself. We have 2 massive generators. I think we're good for 2 weeks without line power that we can last. Everything we did. The telecommunications in this building is phenomenal. People in Northern Virginia would be jealous of what we have here. We're on 3, it's called a synchronous optical network. We're on 3 SONET rings that we are actually part of the SONET ring, where the telecom, both Verizon, Cox, and Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority, they actually come into this building on one side and go out the other. You know, we're not a little node off of their line. We are their line, which is incredible type of resiliency to have. You look at that, you look at some of the financial benefits that we had jointly. One of the things that I felt was one of the biggest benefits of this, Mayor Lee called it a public-private, I call it a private-public partnership, but what we looked at is culturally, the cultural benefit that we saw with this. I would often do orientation for our new hires. And my background is I spent 20 years with Roanoke Gas Company before I started doing this. I would go into each one of those new hires and say, we are a public safety entity. What we do is public safety. We are no different than a 911 center. And now our employees will walk through these same doors as 911 operators. Huge, huge culturally. So with that, we're very appreciative of everything to get everybody to get us to this point. And I have a list of acknowledgments that I'd like to reach out to people with, certainly. And one of the things that you'll notice is the majority of the people that I'm going to call out that were part of this building, most of it was locally sourced. And to me, that means a lot. Even though as Virginia 811, we serve the whole Commonwealth of Virginia, but we are located here in Roanoke. The first got to point out is Lionberger Construction. So Sam Lionberger, Rick Baldwin, and Randy Pruitt. You know, all those. And Randy was the guy to the right who really spearheaded everything and kept this project moving and keeping us on target, because we had a drop dead date we had to be in it by December of last year, and we did. We were here in the first week. Balzer and Associates, they designed it for us, Craig Balzer, and we have James Ruland here, who will actually talk a little bit after I will. We had a company out of Richmond called Facility Support System, Nelson Dawson, who really designed the data center itself and all the networking within it. We had E+, CJ Caldwell, that was a local company that did a lot of the work here on the networking side. Our telecoms, AT&T, Verizon, Cox, Roanoke Broadband Authority, all of them very instrumental in getting this. Certainly working with utilities, I'd be amiss if I didn't talk about AEP and Western Virginia Water Authority, since we have plenty of water coming right up here on the hill. We'll never run out of water in this place. And then we're an assortment of vendors, and I apologize if I'm going to miss somebody, but Harris Office Furniture did a lot of the furniture design for ourselves, and I think they did some work for 911. Twists and turns, when you go into the courtyard or you walk over here into the lunch area, you'll see some absolutely gorgeous looking furniture that we had from them. Lee Hartman did all the audio visual on the interior. I'd like to thank the Virginia 811 staff. And unfortunately, because we were doing this virtually, we weren't able to have many of our staff here. But we do have Natalie, we have Scott Crawford, and I think that's all we have present today. But you look at all the stuff that we did over the last 3 years, designing and moving into this place, all of our agents, all of our staff having to coordinate schedules. When we moved out of that building into this, we had a 2-week period where we have a disaster recovery site at the higher ed, and we had to move everybody there, and it was fully functioning while that was completely down, and we're waiting to move into here. And it went flawlessly for us. And the reason it went flawlessly for us is our IT staff, with Debbie Hoffbauer, Rick Marshenko, Rob Hogan, and Marcy Carroll. Our IT staff did a fabulous job making sure that we were always up and running and never missed anything with our customer base. Got to thank the Roanoke City staff, everybody we worked with on that. Sherman Stover, I don't know where Sherman is now, but right over there. Sherman and we started working on this over 2 years ago, looking at coming up with a condominium agreement and how would that look? How could we do a public-private partnership and actually have it work and great work. Vanessa Bohr, who did a lot of work with us with IT leadership. Certainly Sonia, the Mayor Lee, she was the heart of it. We were always communicating back and forth, even when we disagreed on colors. We always agreed in the end, right? John Powers was the man on the site to make sure everything is. John here? There you are, John. Appreciate all the work you did to make sure everything got in place. And I'd like to recognize two of the retired staff that really were instrumental. There was Charlie Anderson, who was the city architect. Charlie served as our project manager throughout the whole process. Fabulous to work with, and he was a lot of attention to detail to make sure that when we did move in here, everything would work and work properly. And then Roy Menkow, who was the prior IT director, and Roy was there from the beginning, the inception, talking about how do we make this work and designing it, not just with the building itself, but also with, how do we come up with agreements and make sure everything works properly. It's been an incredible experience, working with the city. We've certainly enjoyed that experience and look forward to many, many more years of working with Roanoke City as we share lunch together. With that, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is James Ruland. I'm the architect for the project here from Balzer and Associates. Thank you for your time and attention. I have a few comments of a slightly different nature. These days, we find ourselves depending more and more and paying more and more attention to an ever-increasing dependence on these digital means of communication. For many of us, this is a necessary and a challenging shift. After all, we are social beings. This physical trait of our condition cannot be denied. Perhaps this is why our recent heightened reliance on these digital means can at times result in a general feeling of loss of personal touches and as well of well-crafted things. Our human nature is intimately bound to shaping the world with our hands. Even the word human comes from the Latin root of the word for hand. We all appreciate well-crafted things, not only for their aesthetics, but also as a demonstration of skill and thoughtfulness. Those of us that make well-crafted things, the hope is that in turn we become well-crafted people. I encourage you all to consider that this vague loss of personal touch and well-crafted things can help us to see a different truth. That digital systems can also be well-crafted things of skill and thoughtfulness. A well-designed tool such as the chisel can shape the way one works with wood and stone. It shapes the way a craftsman thinks about calling a sculpture to appear before him. So too, the networking systems and computer codes can shape the way we communicate with each other. These digital platforms can shape the way we think. Our constant challenge in this exchange is to consciously realize the power and influence of these tools. Here, today, there are a variety of systems all in place. And this new merging of formerly separate worlds in this crowd, in this building, and in this place right now. The inception of this project lies in a fundamental awareness of questioning the limits of these systems that we all use and rely on deeply. It is a spirit of innovation that sees these systems for what they are and seeks to tailor them to meet a greater potential. It has also forced us to question and redefine the nearly invisible and often implicit municipal systems that govern our communication. Innovation and new kinds of questions are all around us throughout this project, throughout this work. Every day, this place greets us with an uncharted territory, almost everywhere we look. For those of you among us who served as driving forces in this project, thank you. This building may be done, but your work cannot stop here. Your spirit of innovation must continue onwards to this undiscovered horizon. You must continue onward. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jeannie Fishwick, and I am so happy to be here this morning representing the Roanoke Arts Commission to dedicate the beautiful statue outside of this wonderful facility. We are part of a unique public-private partnership, and Roanoke Arts Commission commissioned the Guidance Tower, a work that will always stand to represent this facility. It was funded through a Percent for Art program, which dedicates funds from capital expenditures specifically to support public art. Each time the city selects a new piece of art, a volunteer selection panel is established to work together and establish goals, review submissions, meet artists, and ultimately select the piece of art most appropriate for the time and place. I was so pleased to be the Roanoke Arts Commission representative on the volunteer panel that selected the Guidance Tower. I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge the rest of the panel. Local artist Catherine Devine, Scott Crawford, now CEO and president of 811, Sonia Roman, manager of the city's 911 services, Luke Pugh from City Engineering, Tony Thomas, the purchasing liaison from Roanoke City, and the late Patrick Shaw Cable, formerly of the Taubman Art Museum. From selection to installation, this project was very exciting. We had a wonderful experience with all the artists that we worked with, and ultimately chose this work based on the themes of safety, partnership, and care. The artist David Sheldon is a painter and sculptor from Asheville, North Carolina. He has degrees from Rhode Island School of Design and the University of Maryland. He has illustrated over 100 children's books for almost a decade of his life, working with some of the most famous publishing houses in the world. And for the past 12 years, he has taught fine arts at the college level and developed a career on public art and sculpture. He now has commissions which are home to permanent collections in Greeley, Colorado, Dubai, and now Roanoke, Virginia. We are so happy that he chose to make this submission to us and work with the City of Roanoke as we selected the Guidance Tower. We hope that it adds to the aesthetic of the building and all who work and visit here. Thank you so much.
1, 2, 3.